The studio lights felt hotter than usual that morning, the kind of heat that seeped through tailored jackets and made makeup artists hover just a second longer with blotting paper. Kevin Costner sat in his chair, posture relaxed but eyes alert, the familiar calm of a man who had faced cameras for decades. Across from him, Michael Strahan wore his trademark easy smile, the one audiences trusted to guide them through headlines and human interest moments before coffee had fully kicked in. The segment had been billed as a friendly conversation, career reflections, a new project, a few laughs. No one in the control room expected the air to tighten the way it did. It began gently enough. Strahan opened with praise, a nod to Costner's legacy and the way his work had threaded itself through American pop culture. Costner thanked him, voice even, the corners of his mouth lifting just enough. The audience murmured approval. Then came the pivot, subtle, almost polite. A question about the industry changing. A follow-up about responsibility. Another about influence. Costner listened, hands folded, eyes steady. He'd heard versions of these questions before, framed as curiosity but carrying a sharper edge. Strahan leaned forward slightly, tone still conversational, and asked about criticism Costner had faced for comments he'd made in a recent interview, comments some had called out of touch. The screen behind them displayed a still from one of Costner's films, a reminder of the career under discussion. Costner inhaled, nodding once. "Criticism comes with the territory," he said. "I've been in this long enough to know that. The exchange could have stayed there." But Strahan pressed, quoting a line without context, asking whether Costner understood why people felt dismissed by it. The smile didn't leave Strahan's face, yet the question landed heavier than intended. Costner's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He glanced toward the audience, then back. "I understand why people react to headlines," he said carefully. "I don't always agree that they reflect what was actually said." Strahan raised an eyebrow, a practiced signal of challenge that viewers recognized from countless interviews. "But when you have a platform," he replied, "don't you think there's a responsibility to be clearer? Especially now." A quiet ripple moved through the studio. Costner shifted in his chair, crossing one leg over the other. "There's also a responsibility," he said, "to let people finish their thoughts before judging them." The words weren't loud, but they carried. The audience hushed. In the control room, a producer leaned closer to the monitor. Strahan nodded, acknowledging the point, yet followed with another question, this one broader, more pointed. He referenced the show Costner was promoting, tying its themes to modern debates. "Some say your work romanticizes an older worldview," Strahan said. "How do you respond to that?" For the first time, Costner's expression changed openly. Not anger, exactly, more resolve. He leaned forward, mirroring Strahan's posture. "I respond by saying storytelling isn't a lecture," he said. "It's a mirror. People see what they bring to it." Strahan opened his mouth to interject, but Costner continued, voice steady but firmer. "And if we're going to talk about responsibility," he added, "then let's talk about how questions are framed. Because framing can turn a conversation into a verdict." A few audience members clapped, quickly silenced by the host's raised hand. Strahan smiled again, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm just asking what viewers are wondering," he said. "That's my job." Costner nodded once. "And my job," he replied, "is to answer honestly, not defensively." But honesty needs room. The tension was now unmistakable, a taut line stretched between two professionals who knew the rules of live television and were testing their limits. The camera cut briefly to the co-hosts, their expressions carefully neutral, before returning to the main shot. Strahan adjusted his cue cards, glancing down as if to reset. He looked back up and asked a question that seemed harmless on the surface but carried the weight of the previous exchange, whether Costner felt misunderstood by the media. Costner exhaled slowly. "I don't feel misunderstood," he said. "I feel edited." The word hung there. Edited. It wasn't accusatory, but it was unmistakably direct. Strahan chuckled lightly, attempting to soften the moment. "That's television," he said. "We all deal with it." Costner smiled, thin but polite. "Then you know," he replied, "that sometimes it's worth pushing back." The audience stirred again. Somewhere off camera, a floor manager shifted nervously. Strahan leaned back, hands open in a gesture of openness. "Push back," he echoed. "Go ahead." Costner took him at his word. He spoke about nuance, about long-form conversations reduced to sound bites, about the danger of assuming intent. His voice never rose, but it gained momentum, each sentence building on the last. He spoke as someone who had spent years listening, waiting, choosing words carefully because he knew how easily they could be bent. Strahan listened, nodding, but when he tried to steer the conversation back to safer ground, Costner gently but decisively redirected it. "Before we move on," he said, "there's something important here. When we talk about change, let's not confuse disagreement with ignorance." The studio fell silent. Even the cameras seemed to pause. Costner's gaze was steady, not confrontational, but unyielding. He wasn't shutting down conversation, he was setting a boundary. Strahan's smile faded into something more serious. "Fair enough," he said after a beat. "But viewers want accountability. And they deserve it," Costner replied. "Just not at the cost of fairness." The words landed like a closing argument. The clock ticked down toward the commercial break, red numbers blinking in the corner of the monitor. Strahan glanced at it, then back at Costner, measuring his next move. The easy banter of the segment was gone, replaced by a charged stillness that everyone in the studio felt. As the director counted down in Strahan's earpiece, Costner leaned back again. The storm seemingly passed, but the air remained electric. Whatever had started as a routine interview had shifted into something else entirely, a live, unscripted moment where two seasoned figures had drawn their lines in real time. The cameras rolled, the audience waited, and the tension promised that what came next would not be forgotten.